Do you ever look at your phone and wish that it could make you feel less stressed instead of more stressed?
That's not how it works.
Well, I wanted it to do that. I wanted my phone to help me feel less stressed. And there's a few ways it does help me do that through a few apps that I use. So I'm going to be going through 3 apps that I like in particular. And for each of them, I'm going to describe first what the app is, and then why I like using it, and then how much it costs, and then some free alternatives. So the first app I wanted to talk about is the Waking Up app. It's a meditation app, but it's a little bit different than the kind of big 2 in my mind, which is Calm and Headspace. This one is influenced by a combination of Vipassana meditation and the Dzogchen tradition. That detail doesn't matter unless you happen to be somebody who's quite into mindfulness and meditation and Buddhist traditions yourself. Why do I like it? Well, it's really good for helping me develop self-flexibility and attentional flexibility. Those concepts might sound a little obscure if you haven't interacted with acceptance and commitment therapy before, but very briefly, self-flexibility is about trying to allow yourself the option of shifting back and forth between identifying more in terms of yourself as an individual versus more in terms of yourself as interconnected to the world around you and the people around you, and developing the capacity to make those shifts in ways that support how you want to be in the world and the possibility of there being an optimal level of that in different contexts. Attentional flexibility is a little bit simpler. It's about the ability to expand your attention to be more diffuse, so less focused, or narrow it to be very kind of pinhole focused on just the specific thing that you're trying to do. You need that kind of pinhole, very narrow realm of focus when you're trying to study or learn something new or focus on a difficult task, but you don't want to stay in that all the time. You want to be able to go out to a more expanded view when you're trying to relax or when you're trying to do creative work. And it would be quite painful to experience all of life with just the pinhole view. So attentional flexibility helps you be able to move back and forth between those ends of the spectrum. And so this app in particular, more so than other meditation apps, I found helpful for developing both self-flexibility and attentional flexibility. It costs $14.99 a month, cheaper if you do an annual version. And in this case, the free alternative is actually through the app itself. They offer a free scholarship program to anybody. You don't have to be a student to access it. If you can't afford to pay the subscription fee for this app, you can email them and request a subscription, and they try not to turn people away from this because they think it's a service that should be provided to people and that money shouldn't be a barrier to entry for it, which is really nice. I think it's a great thing that they offer that. The second app that helps me is Calm, which is one of those big 2 meditation apps, Calm, Headspace. So what is it? It's a straightforward meditation app with a huge library of different types of meditation for different contexts. I did try both Calm and Headspace early on, many years ago, but I ended up just liking Calm better at the time, and then I just stuck with it. And so Headspace might also be equally as good. You could look at both if you want. I find having a kind of generalist meditation app useful for a couple of different things. Really, the thing that I most use from it is the walking meditation feature. I really like the walking meditation on Calm because it helps me get out of my head. It helps me with shifting from interocepting, kind of focusing on what's within myself, to exterocepting and putting my attention out in the world around me. It involves kind of walking wherever you are and just noticing the sounds in the area around you, the sights you're seeing, the way that your body feels interacting with the environment. And I find the process of doing that kind of exteroception shift, that kind of getting out of my head, to be quite helpful, especially if I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. Similarly to Waking Up, it costs $14.99 a month with a discount if you do the annual program. They don't offer a scholarship, but there are quite a lot of good meditations for free on YouTube, and you could also download them from YouTube as an MP3 and put them on your phone. I'll link one video I found in particular below that's a 15-minute walking meditation, as well as a search term of walking meditations, and you could see if there's other ones there that might work better for you. And if you find one that you like better, let me know. One other thing that I end up using this app for quite a bit is they have really nice kind of guided naps, which sounds so silly, but if you want to have a nap, which I think can be helpful on days when you haven't had enough sleep or things are kind of difficult and you want one of those kind of 25-minute optimal naps where you're not going to feel groggy afterwards. They have these scripts where they have somebody with a calming voice trying to get you into a sleepy state, and they have the music and sound effects that kind of drift off. And then what I really like about it is instead of having to put an alarm on your phone that's like a at 25 minutes, the track itself gets louder near the end and tries to wake you back up through using say bird song sound effects. I still do tend to put an alarm for 30 minutes just in case I don't wake up for that as a failsafe, but sometimes it does work where it wakes you up in a little bit more pleasant way. Again, very indulgent, but if you're going to pay for the app anyways for the core meditation features, it's a nice bonus that it has. Calm also has a free 7-day trial, so you could compare and contrast what you get with that versus the free alternatives available on YouTube and the internet more broadly during those 7 days, and see whether or not paying for it would be worth it to you. Again, the library of free content is getting quite good, so open question. If you do end up getting the MP3s, there are a variety of apps that you could use to play those on your phone, but one that I like to use for this is an app called Bound, which lets you take a series of MP3s or whatever audio file format and put them together into your own little kind of audiobook or audio series. So that's a little plug for Bound if you end up going that route. The third and final thing that really helps me de-stress quite a lot on my phone is Yoga Nidra. So what is Yoga Nidra, in case you've never heard of it before? Well, it's a form of non-sleep deep rest, which again is another term that needs a little explanation if you haven't heard it before. It's a term that I learned from Andrew Huberman. He talks about it quite a lot. He has a few multi-hour episodes where he talks about it, but basically it's ways in which you can have the equivalent of the kind of replenishment from a nap without actually going to sleep. And it's not exactly like a nap. The profile of benefits seem to be roughly similar to a nap, but I find mixing between the two to be quite nice. And after starting to do non-sleep deep rest, I often find myself opting for that over a nap, because sometimes even with the 25 to 30 minute naps, I end up feeling a little bit groggy afterwards, whereas I don't find that with the non-sleep deep rest. Non-sleep deep rest and Yoga Nidra can be helpful for resting and recovering when you're feeling overwhelmed or have really expended a lot of concentration during part of the day, maybe several hours of deep work already done. And especially if you know that you have quite a lot more that you need to do during the day, taking this kind of 30-minute gap, if you're in a context where that's an option, I've found personally lets me get in more hours of difficult concentration heavy work afterwards, compared to what I would be able to do during that second part of my workday if I didn't take this kind of self-care gap. It's an interesting combination of being at rest, but also paying attention while doing that, because you're shifting your attention to different parts of your body through this guided meditation that tells you to do that, but while also doing progressive muscle relaxation and really kind of trying to be physiologically at peace, but mentally alert in some ways, not super sharp alert. You should try it. If it at all sounds appealing to you, there's free scripts for it on YouTube, quite a lot of them. Give it a try. Not much downside, right? 30 minutes. When it comes to Yoga Nidra and NSDR, I would kind of recommend the free options. I did end up eventually buying an app that costs $3.99 and that I quite like. It just has a relatively small but very good library of Yoga Nidra scripts, and so I go back to that one most of the time now. But for several months I was just using the ones off of YouTube, and they're also very good. I definitely suggest give it a try first on YouTube, and then if you like it, maybe consider this app, which is the Amrit method of Yoga Nidra. Some of the free ones on YouTube are also by that same group. That said, in terms of bang for your buck, this is probably one of the software purchases I've made that has been the most valuable. Of course, I would be remiss if I did not mention acceptance. There is also acceptance, and acceptance is a huge part of how I deal with stress. Sometimes it's just, I'm stressed. It's okay, I guess. It's not really okay in one sense, but it is okay on a deeper level, right? The goal is not to never feel stressed, and it's certainly very possible to get into a very uncomfortable loop of feeling stressed about feeling stressed. We don't want that, and so we have to accept it on some level. These apps help me with trying to respond to how I feel after starting with acceptance. So start with acceptance. Sometimes that's enough, but if you've accepted it but you still feel physiologically tight, kind of mentally overwhelmed, and acceptance is not getting you back to kind of an optimal state, these type of ways of de-stressing can help quite a lot. In addition to these apps that I use to help me de-stress, I also try to be preemptive about setting myself up to experience no more stress than is necessary. I use a few different workflows to do that, and some of the workflows are supported by different software, including task management apps. In particular, using TickTick for time block planning plays quite a large role in how I try to keep myself ahead of the curve and so I don't end up falling behind. Deadlines, which are one of the things that can make me feel very stressed, which maybe you can relate to. I did recently make a video detailing the way that I use TickTick for digital time block planning. You might check that out. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe if you're new here. Thank you for watching.